Okay.
Diego Pavia is primed to outduel Ty Simpson in Tuscaloosa. Mike Huesmann joins me. Let's get it on.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It's a live edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Joining me is Mike Huesmann. We've got an action-packed show today. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Like I just said, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Mike, this is an epic showdown. This is an epic matchup. Never thought in a million years, I would say. This is Vandy versus Alabama is a top 20 matchup with a lot of things, a lot of implications on the line. But, man, here we are. We have an epic quarterback duel going on with Diego Pavia and Ty Simpson. Diego Pavia, I'm saying, is primed to outduel Ty Simpson. Am I right?
You could be. I did some deep diving into the QBs and the nuances with them in almost every metric. Those two are by far the two best in the SEC so far. Mm-hmm. And it's tough to pick between them at this point. So wouldn't surprise me either one. I will be the first to say I was not as high on the Vandy bandwagon as some going into the year. They've proved me wrong. I have to eat crow on how well they've started the season so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I knew they were going to be great on the line of scrimmage. I knew they were going to win some games that they shouldn't. Yeah. I knew they were going to get some bounces. And with Diego Pavia, you always have a chance. And I called my shot against Virginia Tech. I called my shot against South Carolina. But they're scoring 49 points a game.
Yeah.
They are averaging 460 yards of total offense a game. And I get it. There's one tomato can, a sort of tomato can with Georgia State, and a really good underrated Mountain West team in Utah State that they laid beatdowns on. But elite teams do exactly what they're supposed to do. You're supposed to do that against those teams, and Vanderbilt doesn't usually do that against those teams. They usually mess around, and they usually are in close games. So to me, this Vanderbilt team has far exceeded expectations. But going back to the quarterbacks, like when I look at both of their skill sets, like Diego Pavia is a generational type talent. Like he is somebody that has just infected has a negative connotation, but his energy, it's all contagious. And this team has been elevated because of it. And I think this is where the edge lies, because I think, and even though Ty Simpson's elite, and I'm not saying he's not, but I think the edge, surprisingly, is with Vanderbilt here, because I think their quarterback gets more out of his weapons than maybe, say, Alabama.
And if I could put everything you said into one word, I think I would call it magnetism. And Pavia has that. And it's, like you said, everybody latches on to what he's bringing to the table. And we've seen the results of that the last 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And they just, the play's been elevated, and, the stats have backed it up. The recruiting numbers have backed it up. The transfer portal acquisitions have backed it up. NIL is starting to improve. Just the culture around town, like there's more Vandy hats, shirts, flags, car signs, car tags, house flags, whatever you want to call it. There's more V's around Nashville than ever before, because Nashville is historically, you're either orange or you're Roll Tide, and there's Ole Miss sprinkled in there, and it's just, but those are the two dominant teams in Nashville, with Vanderbilt just being an afterthought. But that Diego Pavia has changed that. So what do you see in this matchup? Like, what do you see with you deep dive into Ty Simpson? Like, what do you see from that?
He's thrown 11 touchdowns, no interceptions so far. That's very impressive. After multiple games, both of these two are in the top 15 in the country in QB rating. So Pavia's 9th overall, Simpson's 15. Those are the two best in the SEC. Both of them are significantly better than they were last year, albeit Simpson was in limited play last year. But Pavia's 13 to 3 touchdowns to interceptions. He's also the 12th leading rusher in the SEC. He has almost 300 yards, 5 touchdowns. Simpson's ran for 2 scores, but his running is negligible apart from that. One thing that did surprise me is that, albeit it's close, Simpson's been sacked more than Pavia has this year by 1. It's 4-3, but I wouldn't have thought that. Especially Caden Proctor coming in as, a very hyped up O-tackle, as will be a high NFL draft pick. You'd have thought they would just be pretty safe there. He's been iffy though, or was, especially against Florida State. They've gotten better since then, but that Vandy O-line has been really good. You talked about the trench play before, and it has been. They've done well there.
Yeah, no doubt. And so protecting Pavia has been, that's been paramount coming in. That's been one of the big goals for this season. Protect Pavia, take care of him and don't let him take so many hits. Like this time last year, he's taken a ton of hits because you really didn't have many options, or you didn't really have anything that you knew about outside of like Cedric Alexander, Junior Sherrill every once in a while, Eli Stowers, of course. But like outside of that, it was really just Pavia's just going to run around and do his thing, and he took a lot of shots. Now, I think this year with the play designs, the play calls, I think have been phenomenal in taking care of Pavia. I think the players around him have stepped up and allowed them to make these play calls, like Caleb Barnett, the 140-pound freshman, didn't think he was going to have as much of an impact as he has. Trey Richardson, the D2 transfer from Wabash College.
Yeah.
That one, well, I'm not necessarily surprised because I saw his skill set and I was like, he's going to do something nobody knows about him, but like the world is surprised about him, and he's a D2 guy. So and then Junior Sherrill's really kind of stepped up and became that bona fide number 1 guy. Caught 3 touchdowns last week against Utah State. And you look at Utah State and you're like, man, they were like 1-11 last, or they won 3 games last year or something.
Yeah, they had an interim coach all last year.
Yeah. And they were pretty bad. And you look at that and go, okay, well, they were pretty bad last year, but man, they come in this year, like they racked up, and Air Force is no slouch. They racked up 600 something yards against Air Force. So that's
Bronco Mendenhall's been a successful coach for 2 decades, and he's at Utah State now.
And it's no different there. And that was not an easy defense to move the ball against.
No.
And they blew down the doors and scored 55 points against that defense, which is a very formidable Mountain West defense. So soon to be Pac-12. So, you just look at this matchup, Mike, and what it really is going to come down to, it's going to be critical that, obviously you got to win first and second down, but you have to win your third down situations no matter what they are. And winning them sometimes is being able to punt and still maintain somewhat of a field position advantage. So winning third down, which Alabama's done tremendously, and Vanderbilt as well. Vanderbilt's 4th
on defense. Alabama's not, though. I was looking into their D today. They're 99th in the country in third down D. 42% of the time teams are converting on them.
Exactly. And so you look at those stats, and that's why you're here, Mike. That's why you're here. Yeah. All season after dark, man. That's the kind of big time stuff you get there on all season after dark. Third down stats, man, because the things that Vanderbilt's good at, running the ball and playing on third down. Yeah. And because they're good at running the ball, their third downs are more manageable. And if you're not stopping teams on third down, it's going to be a struggle for you.
Alabama has the 2nd best pass defense in the country. They're 90th in run D.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, what causes a team, in your opinion, to be so drastic in those 2 categories?
So there's 2 things at play here. I think the first one is the opponents they've played have skewed that, because Florida State ran all over them. Wisconsin is a run-heavy team, albeit they didn't do great. But Bama hasn't played teams who are very good at throwing the ball yet, is part of it. So I think when you're going to be that run-heavy on D, you're going to allow big pass plays. They really haven't, which is, I think, more testament to the QBs they're playing. So the negative things that can happen in the pass game there haven't happened yet. And the other thing at play could be just the makeup of their D. Maybe they're just not as good in the backfield as we expected they were. There's some unknowns there just because they haven't faced a good throwing team yet, really.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue to break down this matchup here in just a minute, but we're going to take a break. I want to tell you about Quo. That's right. They were formerly known as Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about before, just with the new name. Here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. And when every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones and relying on a landline. So no more phone clips on both sides and trying to do, hey, none of that, right? And I love it that, you have a shared inbox. So like you have one account and everyone on your team can go in and say, okay, I'm going to take this person. Oh, hey, I'm going to connect with this person. And they even have an AI agent. So like, let's say you're after hours, right? And you don't want to answer the call, man, they help you capture leads. It's really, really good. And I can see why, Mike, you can see why, and everyone else can see why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone, because you can get started free for 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you got an existing number with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We appreciate you. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If you need a second listen, Chris Gordy at Locked On SEC is a great place to go. And if you want to go outside the network, why not stroll on over to Off Season After Dark with Mike Huesmann? Phenomenal guest. Mike, how many episodes have you cranked out?
18.
18, man. And you just started, 18. What, in July?
Yes, summer.
Jeez, yeah. That's he's on it now. He's on a streak now. If we were advertised for DoorDash, he would be on a streak. So, Mike, well, let's continue our breakdown because I mean, this, again, like you look at this game, and I'll put the evaluation the very quick, basic evaluation I put of Alabama. I'll put that up on the screen right here. But one of the things that we look at, and I want to talk about this passing game for a second for Alabama, because we're going to flip it over to give the ball to Alabama now. They're 10th in the country in FBS in passing game, run game 108th currently. So they were, against Georgia, you could see they struggled to get in the run game. But one of the things they used as a run game, as an extension of the run game, are screens. And obviously that's a passing stat, but they kind of utilize it more as their run game. But to me, like, I feel like you're sitting as a coach, like if you're relying on screens too much, you're sitting on a house of cards, because it's one of those things. It can be fleeting. Screens, if you do them too much, they're ineffective. Like if you have an over-aggressive, overzealous defense, you're going to be good. Or if you can find yourself in some situational mismatches or some formational mismatches, like if you have numbers, like throwing a little quick screen out there to Ryan Williams is probably going to net you 5 yards, which is better than what you can get just turning and handing the ball off. So what about this Alabama offense that you see that's like, okay, if Vanderbilt stops this, they will definitively win this game?
I don't know that there's any one thing that if they stop it, they'll win. I think it's if they can force turnovers, they'll win. Alabama has not turned the ball over. They've not thrown any interceptions. But if Vandy can force them into 3rd and long situations where you're not using screens, you're not using you're taking them out of what makes them comfortable, what Grubb and DeBoer want to do in that short intermediate pass game where they're crossing over the middle, getting guys in space. You can take them out of that. That's your path to winning.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was listening to Clark Lee talk in his press conference, and he told the media, this team reminds him of that Washington National Championship team where you had Michael Penix back there carving teams up, but then they get to Michigan and all of a sudden they can't, they can't move the ball. And Michigan, I don't remember watching that game. I don't remember seeing Michigan getting a ton of pressure on the quarterback. I think they mostly to neutralize Penix, I think honestly they put more pressure on his weapons than they did him himself. If I remember that game correctly.
And that Michigan D line was so good. They didn't have to blitz anybody. You just had your up front 4 guys, and it's the rest of us 7 will take care of everything behind you. So they were very well constructed.
That's right. That's right.
But you took away Penix's basically all the angles. So he's not hitting the outs. He's not having the seams. He's not having right down the middle. You make him pick the windows, and
he has to throw on timing. If he can't, and if you get hands on those receivers, if you can make contact, if you can force those guys to run through an obstacle course to get to their spot, if they're even a half second late, it's going to disrupt the timing. And if you can get Ty Simpson to double clutch, you get him to take a sack, or you're there to be able to get a hit on him. Unless you're Langston Patterson, you're not allowed to hit him. Because I think every time he hits a quarterback, the ref's like, that has to be illegal, so we're going to throw a flag. So in all seriousness, and I know it seems very basic and very elementary, and people listening to my next comment are going to be like, well, yeah, no kidding. You hit the quarterback, he's going to be affected. But I mean, that's a truthful, that's a basic thing that is super important in this game, because if you get a rhythm-based quarterback, the more you can hit him, the more you can get him thinking about getting hit, because quarterbacks, Mike, don't like to get hit.
They do not.
They do not. So if you can just hit him, get a couple sacks, get a couple hits, get a couple hurries, try to make him, this is going to be a difficult task, but try to make him look down at the rush instead of down the field. Try to get him off his spot and try to get him running sideways. He may cough one up. You may be able to sneak a turnover here or there.
Oh.
You may be able to get something, a call kind of like with South Carolina, where you drop a guy into coverage that he's not expecting, and those are right to him, like something like that. I think Vanderbilt's defense can play some games.
And one way to do that will be take away Ryan Williams, or whoever Simpson's first read is going to be. Williams is going to be, obviously he's the guy they want to get the ball to, but you take away that first guy, that's going to allow you to disrupt those windows, to bring pressure and make him uncomfortable. Because if he can hit the first read all the time, you're not going to get any pressure on anybody at that level.
No, because if that ball's getting out, Georgia failed to be able to, and Georgia was sending guys. Georgia had free runners. Georgia had a good game plan up front to get pressure. But the thing they forgot, or not forgot, but the thing they failed to do was get pressure on the receivers. I think it's just as important, just as vital, maybe even more vital, to get pressure on the receivers than it is for Ty Simpson. I was very impressed with Horton against Georgia. Touchdown the whole game. He was a good play. He ran good routes. He found windows. He was good in that game. Yeah, and that Vanderbilt's going to have their hands full nonetheless with this receiving core. I mean, it's not just Ryan Williams this time. It's Horton. It's Jeremy Bernard. It's the tight end. He's good enough to be able to be dangerous, but it's going to be those guys.
Cuevas, he's okay. Yeah,
he's okay, but he'll make a big catch here and there. He'll sit down in his zone and get 8 yards here and there.
He's a system guy like Bernard is. They came from Washington with DeBoer.
Yeah, and then you have Jam Miller that releases it. That play call to ice the game was brilliant.
Such a good call.
It's such a good call
because they roll the one way and go out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they were able to formationally and motion wise, they were able to get Georgia to bite and to overload that side, and then you send the receiver, you send that play side receiver in motion, and the corner goes with them. It's obvious they're in man. And then the safety takes the tight end that releases, and then there's nobody in the flat. That linebacker has no shot at getting over there because you have an inside linebacker trying to cover that back, and you have no chance. So they're going to try to do things like that. So I think Vanderbilt's going to have to figure out, how to disguise a little bit, how to handle motion, which they do a lot of motion themselves. So if Vanderbilt just trains against its own offense, I think from the motion aspect of it, they'll be more apt to be able to adjust because they do that themselves, and they've been seeing it all summer and all spring. So, I'm not as worried about that. And plus, I think Vanderbilt has, and there's something to this when you compare Vanderbilt and Georgia, that you compare their systems. And to me, watching Georgia, it looked like they were lost a lot of times. It looked like it would appear to me that Kirby, the one thing Kirby hasn't adjusted to yet in the transfer portal era is having to have a complex yet simplified version of that. I know that seems kind of oxymoronic there, but you have to have a little bit more simplicity in what you do because it's such a transient roster. I don't think he's done that yet, and these guys are still kind of swimming. And you got young guys playing out there too that don't necessarily understand all the calls, and there's more busts according to that, and they just look lost with their adjustments because they're trying to figure out what to do. Vanderbilt, that's not the case. They're more sure. They're more in tune on what they do. So the penalties are what kill you.
Yes, and one thing where Alabama has a very good D line. I'm not as worried about that being the decider. For all of South Carolina's faults, their D line is pretty good. It's also one of the strengths of Utah State relative for a team at that level. Vandy has played teams with good D lines, and they've coped with that very well.
Yeah, they have.
So
yeah, they have absolutely on the offensive side of the ball. They've been able to. I mean, they're such an elite team. Bryce Henderson coming from South Dakota, that guy's a mountain.
Yeah.
And they flip their offensive line. They play a strong and quick side. They're so in tune, man, and they're so aggressive. The strong side blocks down on you and just washes you down. They got guys that pull around. You got even the strong side guys are quick enough to be able to reach on an outside zone. Like these guys are like they're playing as a unit, man.
I've watched 2 of their games this year. The guy that impressed me a lot was Jordan White at center, the Liberty transfer. He's good.
He just got named team captain or one of the team captains, and he's going to be an NFL guy, like for sure. Yeah. However high they pick centers, I think he's going to be in that upper echelon of centers in the upcoming NFL draft. Like he's legit, and it's not just ability. It's communication, it's leadership, it's getting the rest of those guys on the same page. And
his grades are very good in both run and pass too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's super athletic. I mean, he's the center that Vanderbilt's been missing because last year their center was I don't know who it was. Yeah, I can't remember his name for some reason. I just drew a blank. That's kind of odd for me to do that, but he was massive, and he couldn't move as well. So he was basically like if teams played odd front, like that was his specialty. Yeah, like he's going to block a zero nose, and he's just going to lock that down. Jordan White can get up and run. So that's what you want out of a center. Like Vanderbilt, the perfect center for Vanderbilt is a guy like Jordan White. So we're gonna wrap up this evaluation. We're gonna talk about the key matchups more. We're gonna continue to throw stats at you. We're gonna talk about the environment. Gonna talk about a lot of things in such a short amount of time. Next. Mike, do you play FanDuel?
I have many times.
What's your favorite thing on FanDuel? What do you like to do?
For me, it's probably doing the props on dailies on Saturday. So, doing parlays on those. So, throwing 3 or 4 of them in there, doing that. The other one I had done before, but can't do it in West Virginia now, was the preseason over-unders. Those are the ones I like the most.
The futures bets. But I love the player props, man. I love I'll build me a nice little same game parlay for college, but for NFL, I really stick to the player props mostly because I want to see I want to score money off of my fantasy team.
Yeah.
Or if I'm like getting my butt handed to me in fantasy, I might just throw a few bets on one of my opponent's players and at least just get paid off from that. So, but did you know that with FanDuel, if you're new, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if that bet wins? Yeah, man, that's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So, like we said, there's a lot of ways to play. You can do live game stuff too. Live game betting is just as fun. It makes watching things more exciting when you've got a little something in on the action. So, if you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. We are wrapping up the show here. We are quickly coming to the end, as the great Yogi Berra said. it got late early. So joining me is Mike Huesmann, off-season After Dark from the After Dark Network. We actually joined forces on SEC After Dark, but it's incredible, man. And like I said, I appreciate you joining me. And man, this has been a great deep dive. This has been a great live stream here. But the key matchups, man. We talked about D-line stuff like that, but like what about Vanderbilt? Like we talked about Alabama's D-line. We've talked a lot about Vanderbilt's offensive line. But when you look at what Vanderbilt's been able to do on the defensive line with Zaylen Wood, Corday Sidnor, Zaylen Wood finally healthy, knock on wood. Or I'm actually knocked back here. Finally healthy, been able to wreak some havoc. And he wreaked some havoc against your Gamecocks. Zaylen Wood did kind of set that game into a tailspin for South Carolina. But what have you noticed about Vanderbilt's defensive line that's impressed you, and how can they carry that over into Saturday?
For me, what I've noticed there is they're good at hurrying the QB. Both Sidner and Capers are doing well at that. They're causing a lot of havoc, getting pressure, and that's an area where they've given a lot of teams problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when they've been really good against the run, honestly, they outside of a few scrambles with Utah State, a couple of runs in the South Carolina game and a couple of runs with Kyron Drones, they haven't relinquished much in the running game at all. And I think when you look at the stats, they are 12th in FBS in rushing, giving up just a touch under 80 yards per game. Passing game, they're 55th in pass defense, overall 21st. So they've got a pretty sporty defense as well. 31st in scoring, allowing 17.2.
Longwell's been good in the middle.
Yeah, Longwell and Patterson.
How do you say Randon? Is it Fontenay? How do you say his name?
Fontenay. Yeah, Randon Fontenay.
Yeah, he's good.
He's been an absolute menace, dude. Like he covered. Watching him against Georgia State, I was at the Georgia State game, and watching him cover Ted Hurst on a lot of snaps was incredible to watch, because like he's one of the he plays the star position, which is a hybrid safety outside linebacker, and like when you have Ted Hurst, who's arguably one of the best receivers in G5, maybe in conversation for nationally, when you see him going a route and you see Fontenay trailing him, you're like, but that's the matchup they dreamed of. But dude blanketed him. And that just goes to show the athleticism plus the physicality they have at that position. It's going to make things even tougher. And I think those fast screens are going to be well played. Like Vanderbilt's been really good at tackling in space this year.
You have to be against that.
Yeah. And they've been really good at doing that. At times they break down, I think. But for the most part, they've been really good tackling in space. So I've been very impressed with that. But Randon Fontenet's going to be a very, very key piece to this defensive game plan, because he's going to stop a lot of what happens on the perimeter. He's going to be the one to have to snuff out the screen and go make a play. He's going to have to be the one on the fast screens to the perimeter, the one to have to get out there and disrupt it. And the corners are going to have to fight off blocks, and they're going to have, Colby Taylor has no problem doing that.
And their two safeties are good tacklers too. Both CJ Hurd and Marlon Sewell are thick, well-built guys who should be able to stand up to that.
And Dante Carter's good in his own right. He's skinny, but he's good in his own right, tackling wise. But he brings that much more athletic presence to center field there when they go single high, and he can kind of play some of those deeper in cut routes, and hopefully try to stay home on a post and really be able to defend that a little bit better than some of the safeties that Alabama's played so far. So, but yeah, this is going to be a fun matchup. So when you look at the environment, like to me, the environment doesn't scare me as much as it probably would have preseason. You walk into Bryant-Denny and you're like, oh, it's a hostile environment. Game day is going to be there, like all those factors. But like they walked into Williams-Brice, at its peak rockiness with sandstorm and Space Odyssey and
That place gets
towels
loud.
waving,
Yeah.
and that, and then the first play from scrimmage, dude gets slung for a loss. I mean, the crowd goes even more into a frenzy, and then they proceed to go on like a 10-play death march to open up scoring and really kind of quiet that down. So like, this team doesn't strike me as somebody that's going to be intimidated or bothered by the environment.
And some people vehemently disagree with what I'm about to say. And I've had this conversation. If you're veterans in the SEC, veterans in the Big Ten, you have played in environments that are wild and loud and raucous. You're used to it. For me, it sometimes gets a little overblown, the home field advantage. I think at that level, every place is different, but you're used to it being loud, and you know what to. Maybe the first time or two, it's, whoa, there's the shock and awe, but you get used to it. And this Vandy team, like the guys on that team, have played a lot of football games.
Yeah, I mean, they've played at Neyland, some of them. They've played, I mean, they played at Death Valley. They played, a bunch of different places. But I think where it gets to be like home field advantage and where it like affects teams is you get that false start penalty, and then there's some sort of mental block. You just get shook for a little bit, and that's usually when the home team can kind of capitalize off that. But otherwise, for the most part, like home field advantage is. It can be hit or miss in the SEC, depending on how mature your team is. So, but Mike, it's been real, man. Thanks for joining me, man. Where can we find you? Off Season After Dark, obviously on the After Dark Network, but where else can we find
you? X, Twitter is probably the best spot, and I have a YouTube channel, and then I also have recently started a Spotify.
Oh, okay.
But X is probably the best spot.
At Huesmann CFB, which you can see right there below. So
and then Off Season After Dark has their own page too. So
there you go.
In fact, I tweeted Locked On Vandy tonight from the Off Season After Dark page. So those of you out there can see it. Yep.
Beautiful. So Mike has been tremendous on Off Season After Dark. If you're missing it, you're truly missing it. So Mike, like I said, man, greatly appreciate you jumping on, giving me a little bit of perspective, give me a voice to bounce some ideas off of, and we greatly appreciate it. And check out Mike's show, Off Season After Dark. Make sure you like and subscribe to both places if you haven't already. Locked On SEC and College Football Kickoff on Amazon Fire TV. Guess who's going to be on that this week? Me, finally. So it might be my only appearance. Who knows? But I'm going to cherish it. It's going to be great, man. Drake Toll, Jesse Holly, and Coach Gary Patterson do a phenomenal job on that panel. So I'll be joining them this week, and that'll be a lot of fun. But until next time, anchor down. Peace.